CoWBoY coffee time. CoWBoy coffee time. Good morning, everybody. It's CoWBoy coffee time. CoWBoy coffee time. CoWBoy coffee time. Good morning, everybody. If you're doing good today, hope everything is rolling good in your life and the good Lord liking to you. All you corn dodgers and young fritters, old codgers and corn dodgers, as a friend of mine used to say. Old John Schweers, he's a great songwriter. He wrote so many of the Charlie Pride hits, Burgers and Fries, and Old Love Turned Memory, Daydreams About Night Things. John Schweers is an amazing talent out of Fredericksburg, Texas, and a good friend of mine. We wrote stuff together and I've always had a good time. He's a real big woodsman and great guy, and he would just say young fritters, old codgers, and corn dodgers. In fact, I'm dedicating the next book, book 9, the 9th book in the Blue Mountain series. I'm working on that now, and it's a title. And I asked him, you can use a title, but out of friendship and polite, I asked him if he minded if I used this title of one of his songs that I recorded actually when MCA Records was working with me. Anyhow, it was called Ponies and Guns, and I thought, that's a great title, And he said, he'd be honored, if you make a little money, we'll shoot him a few bucks over there and buy some new arrows for his bow and stuff, But anyhow, a great guy, and if you do a writer show with him and sit beside him way long before you were, you've done all the hits that you've had, he just goes on and on and on. I teased him one time. I said, man, I'll sit beside you on a writer show because, I can do my 3 or 4 recognizable hits and then 5 or 6, others that are well known, and I'm done. He's got like 20. I think he had somewhere up close to 20. I know he had 10 number ones at least that were number one, and then many other songs. And so he just had a great run and a great career and a great guy. But I had to tease him about all that. And anyhow, my new single, Family Tree, is due to be up on iTunes and Apple Music. It's not showing this morning, but sometimes they can be a day or two longer getting it up on the store. So, but look for it. It was supposed to come out yesterday, and I don't see it this morning. But like I said, sometimes a day or two I'll contact my distributor and they'll give them a nudge, and sometimes it's just a matter of work getting done, and the song will be available, called Family Tree, that I wrote with Michael White. And thank you so much, Sid Randell in England on his Ghostwriter Radio. He debuted it for me. I already played it, and he does that every single I have. He's the first one across the world to debut the song, and I appreciate that. And he did that for me actually over a week ago. But had a lot of I love that song. There's some truth in it, in my own life. And we were a tobacco family, or lived in tobacco country. We didn't own the farm. I worked for people, but we were tenant farmers. We lived on somebody's farm in the old original house built in 1901. And I was getting out of the 8th grade. We moved down to on Jones Road in Ararat, North Carolina, down below what's called Blackwater, and we lived on the McKinney and Jones tobacco farm. And the great lady, she was just a sweetheart. Mama Jones, we called her. She was an elderly lady then and a widow, and she lived in the big house on the other side of the holler, and we lived in the house her husband built for her in 1901. So this was 1965, 64, and so 64, 65. So the house was 60, then it was 63 or 4 or whatever years old. But great old farmhouse. I loved it. It was wasn't nothing fancy. My light bulb that hung in my room, was just on a string and pulled the chain. One light bulb hanging in the socket. That was that. And then you had the The door was like a plywood door, and you had a block to lock it inside, on a nail. And it was an old clapboard wood, what they called old time wood house that they built in 1901. But no heat in there. We heated with coal and a potbelly, my great grandfather's potbelly stove. No air conditioning. You open the windows and open the screen door on each end of the house, and you put a window fan in. Had a fan sitting in the window, blowing, and that's what you had. And in the winter, upstairs there was no heat, so I had the big blankets, them old country blankets that Grandma made, and I was underneath them at night. Didn't want to get up. And February in the Blue Ridge foothills, I'm telling you, it gets cold. And they had taken a shower that it was a farm shower, where like on a slab of concrete, and the shower sitting there, that people would come in from the tobacco field and they'd wash off. And that they enclosed it. Our bathroom was where they had enclosed that in plywood with a little tin roof over it. And I'm telling you what, when you took a shower in the wintertime, you were in a hurry, because it was cold in that thing. You might have had that little electric heater with a little plug-in out there. But my wife said one time, "You take quick showers." I said, "Yeah, I can tell you why I do that, because when I was a kid, I jumped in there and out in February in the mountain, Blue Ridge over there. And wasn't nothing warm about that shower in the winter." But I loved that old house. It was great, old farmhouse. Like I said, it was built in 1901. But I want to remind everybody, the single's out today, Family Tree. It's on Apple Music. It's not showing yet. Like I said, sometimes it takes a day or so for them to show up when you go to Apple Music and try to order a song or get it. But it's called Family Tree, and it's very much a story of a Surrey County family, and tobacco, and mama praying on her knees at night, praying that the good Lord would save her kids, and to turn over a new leaf, and so that's what the song's about. And I'm so glad it's out now. You set it up and you have to wait a few weeks for it to be out. So it's the new single called Family Tree on Apple Music, Spotify. It's everywhere. But it may take a day or so if you go to look for it. Family Tree, Larry Alderman Family Tree. You may have to wait a day or so till it comes up. But it'll be on Amazon UK also, music. And like I said, it's a Surrey County story. Family Tree, my new single, and it's true. Some of it's true. And my mom did do a lot of praying for us boys. And, you're young and you get out in the world and run. I know that their prayers carried me when I was deployed. I enlisted during Vietnam. I did not go to. I had orders for Nam, and they changed them, and I ended up in the Middle East. But we had terrorist hits there. Lost some of my friends to times when people. Well, I didn't know them real well, but they were soldiers in Istanbul. Some of my brother's soldiers that they shot, and then there were some incidents. Anyway, I went there and served, and then I came out of the Army full time and went to reserve, and did about over 9 years of that. So my mom prayed. Their prayers carried me when I was far across the world, and and good morning, Miss Beverly, over in King, North Carolina, and Miss Susan Sexton. It was great talking to your husband the other day. I had a great time visiting with him, and the single is called Family Tree, and it's on Spotify. You can see it on my Spotify already. Sometimes it was supposed to be out yesterday on iTunes and Apple Music, but sometimes they're a day or so getting it done. So it'll be there in the next couple of days, and you'll be able to see it and find it. It's called Family Tree. And now you're looking at a man that's getting kinda mad. I had a lot of luck, but it's all been bad. No matter how I struggle and strive, I'll never get out of this world alive. My fishing pole's broke, the creek is full of sand. I wanna run away with another man. No matter how I struggle and strive, I'll never get out of this world alive. A distant uncle passed away and left me quite a batch. I was living high until that fatal day. A lawyer proved I wasn't born, I was only hatched. Now everything's against me and it got me down. If I jumped in the river, I would probably drown. No matter how I struggle and strive, I'll never get out of this world alive. These shabby shoes I'm wearing all the time, brother, if I stepped on, I won't have a dime. I bet a nickel I could tell you if it was heads or tails. I'm not gonna worry wrinkles in my brow, 'cause nothing's ever gonna be alright no how. No matter how I struggle and strive, I'll never get out of this world alive. Oh, distant uncle passed away and left me quite a batch. And I'm a living high until that fatal day. The lawyer proved I wasn't born, I was only hatched. Lord, everything's against me and it got me down. If I jumped in the river, I would probably drown. No matter how I struggle and strive, I'll never get out of this world alive. Oh yeah, one of my favorite Hank Williams songs. Never get out of this world alive. Another one I like that he did, a little up-tempo fun. Everybody thinks Hank Williams did sad songs, but he did a lot of happy and funny songs. Well, I came in last night, 10:30. That baby of mine, she wouldn't let me in, so move it on over. Rock it on over. Move over, little dog, 'cause the mean dog's moving in. Show me not to mess around, I done let that deal go down. I move it on over. Move it on over. Move over, nice dog, big fat dog moving in. Well, she changed the lock on my front door. My dog key don't fit no more, so move it on over. Rock it on over. Move over, nice dog, 'cause a mean old dog moving in. Now listen to me, dog, before you whine. That side's yours and this side's mine, so move it on over. Get it on over. Move over, little dog, 'cause a big old dog moving in. Yeah, she's changed the lock on our front door. My door key don't fit no more, say move it on over. Slide it on over. Move over, old dog, 'cause a new dog moving in. Came in last night about 10:30. The woman of mine wouldn't let me in. I said, move it on over. She said, rock it on over. Move over, little dog, 'cause a mean old dog moving in. Yeah, another one of my favorite old Hank songs. He had so many. They were just great. All great music. I sure enjoyed visiting the Hank Williams Museum in May, right before Labor Day, or Memorial Day. We went down to Panama City, but on the way we stayed in Montgomery, Alabama. went to the Hank Williams Museum, visited where he's buried there at the Memorial Gardens. Went to the hot dog shop where he, Chris's Dogs, where he hung out as a boy and played. They were telling how one day they had a parade and everybody was outside and seeing the parade, but then more people come in, crowding in where he was playing in there, the kid, than there was out for the parade at one point. So anyhow, that's Chris's Dogs, and they got the jukebox. I posted a picture of it this week, the jukebox with his records on it, where he lived and went in there as a kid. And so it was a lot of fun. We don't worship no man. Now, that don't get me wrong. I respect him, and it was fun to go. I'd never done it in all my life. I never stopped and went to those places where he was at. And it was fun to see, and visit. And the good Lord gave him a great talent. This makes you think of. Well, just like a blind man, I wandered along. Worries and fears I claim for my own. Then like the blind man, God gave back his sight. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. I saw the light. I saw the light. No more in darkness, no more in night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. Now just like that blind man, I wandered along. Worries and fears I claimed for my own. Then like that blind man, God gave back his sight. And praise the Lord, I saw the light. I saw the light. I saw the light. No more in darkness, no more in night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. Yeah, one of my other favorites. I played that as a 12 and a half, 13-year-old at a church there in Mount Airy. Miss Beverly's talking about the Nunn Brothers. Yeah, I go to church with them when I come home. They're great talent, great people. And one of the girls that lives right by the church there, the Albion Baptist, my good friend Ricky Easter, he played banjo for the Boyd Brothers. And yeah, we've been friends since first grade. He's the pastor there, so I just love going and visiting, and the Nunn family go to that church, and I just love seeing them every year when I come home. Every time I go in and go to church over there with my best friend since first grade, and all their great talent. I wish I was there for the festival tonight. I'd be right down there. Oh, upright, all right, Miss Beverly, you play? I didn't know you played upright bass. All right, hound dog bass. Like the picture over there beside me, Elvis Presley. I always think of his first records when they had the guy in his band was playing the hound dog bass in the studio at Sun. I got that Sun Records thing up behind me over there, and then Elvis, and it's got Marilyn there on that little picture of that era, But he's kind of sitting on the bumper of a car playing the guitar. Elvis is. But yeah, that's great. I'd love to. I'll tell you what, I would love to be over there and come to it. But I got the book I've got to get finished. I'm behind on the book and the album. I got all the songs written, and the new album is on its way. I got to record them. I got to sit down and record them. And I'm going up here to a studio that I use with some great kid that he's a great engineer. And I had so much success with just me and this guitar. I've never had so many strings as this last album I did, called A Man, His Guitar, and the Blues. And this week it was, good gracious, there were streams in Russia, oh good gracious, everywhere. Argentina, just all over the world. And they just love that blues, that thing I did with my guitar. So I'm doing another one that's going to be acoustic, I think. So far that's what I'm thinking. When I get in and start recording, it may change, but we'll see. But I got the songs written, polish on one. I'm still working on one, polishing it, but I got to get in and get that done. So I got to keep working and I've been working early mornings and in the evening on my the next book in the Blue Mountain series, and book 9. I can't believe it that I'm at book 9 now. And I got friends. There's one people in England got in touch with me and said, "When's the book?" It's been a bit because some things were going on, and I was busy, doing other things, and so I'm a little behind. Usually, I had a book out again by now, and hadn't been one since December. And but I told him I'm working on it. I'm working on it. This one of the fans in England. He just Mr. Bob Vincent, and pray for him. He's got a serious ailment, but God can handle serious. Serious ain't nothing to God. It's serious to us, but not God above. So remember Bob in your prayers, and we're believing. I sent him a prayer cloth in the mail. Take about almost 2 weeks to get there, but we prayed over it, and Ricky's preaching that Sunday. Well, oh yeah, I love my Ricky's preaching, and he stomps that little foot, and he says there's something there going up there, and he'll say yeah, something there, and we've been friends since first grade. Even though he did march around me with my own cousins at Rockford Street School in the first grade, I was in Miss Fowler's class, and I liked a little girl named Shirley Hyatt. I ain't never seen her again, but they call me Loverboy. So even though he walked around me, that we've been, I tease him. I won't let him live that down. But we've been friends since first grade. We played music together. We would run up the mountains to this little cinder block building up. Ricky knows what road it's up there. I don't know if it's Willis or Logout. I don't know, but there was a little building, cinder block building, and they had power in it, and they let you come and just hang out, and people would show up and just jam. It wasn't no wild place. There wasn't no beers and stuff going on, nothing like that. It wasn't a joint. It was just a place where people would go play and pick and jam. And we used to go in there, and we went off and played in Hillsville, some things, and places, and had a lot of fun playing music together when we was kids. And we've been friends. We are best friends forever, And well, thank you, Miss Susan. You've read all 4 books. Wow, you've read all 4 of the series. Well, great. Thank you. I'm looking so forward. Well, thank you so much for the reviews. They help so much more than people know. Willis Gap, I don't know if the little building was what gap it was up. Now, my wife, she won't go up Willis Gap with me. I guess it still don't have guardrails. She said she don't want nothing to do with it. And I don't blame her. But when I was a kid, I knew that thing like the back of my hand, and I had fun in my 66 Ford running down it, up and down that thing. But I know one night I took a girl, it was a little date, in the car, and we went up that, and there was ice on the road. She never did go out with me no more. I don't know. That couldn't have been me. Must have been the car. But anyway, thank you so much. It makes me so happy when I hear from people, the folks in England. Somebody in India loves the books, and of all that, I said Taj Mahal, y'all. I mean that's just something else. I love going to the Willis Gap grocery. Say that real quick. Willis Gap grocery store. My sister-in-law's sister works there. I can't think of her name right now, but she's kin to my sister-in-law. Was married to my baby brother, and she works in there. And we just love that store. We love to visit there every time we're home. And had a great time visiting over at WPAQ Radio last time when I was home. Got a picture took of me at the same microphone I played at in 1964. When I was 12 and 13, 65, right in there with Clyde Johnson. He was such a nice guy, and he was good to us kids, I mean, I know I sounded awful, but when I started, but he didn't encourage you. And he was so proud when I came home and did a show. I actually drove them here, the Wilburn brothers, Teddy and Doyle, and they did a show in King, and my whole family was there. Such a proud night for me, and Teddy, the Grand Ole Opry stars, and he walked up and said I would be a force to be reckoned with someday or something other, whatever. And that was really an honor for him to say that. I don't know what kind of force I am, but I know the good Lord has blessed me, and that's good. I give all honor to Him. Well, thank you. I do have a big imagination, and I love reading and I love writing. and I love studying history. My wife got me the journals of Lewis and Clark for my birthday this past week. My last Monday was my birthday, and she got me the journals of Lewis and Clark. And there'll be things in that I can use. And never know when these guys might hook up with them before it's over, or something. I don't know. But I love writing and I love telling stories. When I was in the 7th grade, we had not moved to the farm yet. We were still in Mount Airy, and I was at Mount Airy Junior High. We call it Junior High then. But Miss 7th grade, Miss Nichols was her name, Janet Nichols. And she would read I would write these short dog stories. And I didn't do homework. I'd hit the woods with my dog every evening. And she would give me credit for writing the stories, and she'd read them to the class. And I'm sitting there, this teacher reading my stories to the class in the 7th grade, and she said I was years ahead of my age group in creative writing. And she encouraged me. She's a big reason that I ended up with a songwriting and writing career, and picking guitar too. She encouraged me to do something. I did a medley at the talent show that year in Mount Airy Junior High there, and she just encouraged me. Teachers can mean a lot to you, So I appreciate her. I got to talk to her daughter. Miss Nichols has had strokes, and I couldn't talk to her, but thanked her so much for that. And when Miss Kate Rodhauser Smith, that worked with the Mount Airy Museum, she did an article on me in the Sunday paper, Mount Airy, a year or two ago, and I thanked Miss Nichols in that story, and that that helped me get in touch with her. Her daughter's taking care of her, and she saw that. But anyhow, Miss Kate, they're so nice to me, and they've got my first guitar and my little $12 guitar and my letters from the president, all this stuff in the museum. And I don't know when it'll be in glass where you can go look at some of it, but they've got it all gathered. That I was honored to ask me to bring them stuff. That nice Miss Amy Snyder over there, the curator. So, and Matt, that's the manager. Just all those folks. They're just great folks. If you go in there, my books and albums or CDs are in there, and anybody that buys a book there, all the money is donated to the museum. Of course, I send them to them. I ship them books, and when I was home, I brought them a big box of books, and I'm proud to do it. That is a great museum. It really is, and it's just a great. I love the. Of course, I use in my books. I use the Sora Indians there's a display of one of their huts and things in the museum, and I use all that history where we're from, and the books started because over the years I wrote down the stories that 3 of my great grandparents. I was a lucky kid. I got to know 3 of my great grandparents because they lived very long lives. One of them 106, the others up in their 90s, almost 100. And I knew them as a kid, and I soaked up the stories they told on the porch. I never forgot them. I was recording every bit of it. When I was a little boy, I sat on the porch and listened to them. And Lordy, my great grandma farmer, she lived over toward Woodlawn, Virginia. And I'm gonna have to ask my Uncle Hurley. I don't know where it was exactly, but you went down in a little valley up on the mountain there, over the mountain, and they were just down in this bottom. There was a creek, and they had a spring house, and they didn't have any electricity. It was 1964. They didn't have no electricity. 62, 63, 60, whatever, right in there. They didn't have electricity, and could she cook? But the stories my grandfather told, and his mama, my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather Combs, Friel Combs, we called him Poppy Combs. Everybody was Papa this or Poppy that, And I would listen to him talk on the porch, and he told me stories that are in these books. The Combs boys that are in the stories. He told me that, and later I had a book that I ordered from Virginia, the histories of the units in the Civil War from there, and there was stories in it that he told me on the porch. Now he didn't know the Zadok Combs, he didn't know the name, he just knew the story. One of the ladies would hide her 15-year-old under a porch when either one of the armies, the Southern or Northern Army, got anywhere near her trying to take her boy. So, and they were all believers, they loved God, they believed in the Word, and so it just started this, and I began to write, around that. Blue Mountains of Dan, that's all true. A lot of truth in that. Mr. Robertson, Reverend Robertson, Well, he was a street preacher. That's a true story in there. When he and the lion, the carnival guy going to get in the line to run him off, these are true. My mama told me them stories, and my grandma. My daddy's mama he was her uncle, and she was his pet. She said one time her mama was going to get a switch to her, and he picked her up and ran off in the woods with her. Didn't want her whooping his little kid that he was so fond of. She was his pet, they call it. And but Mr. Robertson was put in jail one day, and he told him, "I'm going to pray the Lord." He didn't have a permit to preach, on the street or something. And the sheriff, they picked him up, and he told him, "Well, I'm going to pray the Lord will work up a storm, blow this place down, blow it open." And it started thundering, and Mom said, "Hey, let that man out." But those are true. Those stories are true. And I changed some of the names. Some of the names are exact in those books. And then I go off and I tell, more story. And the 9th book is you're going to see someone that you saw there. But I love our region. It's rich with history. It's rich with great stories. And the people were God-fearing and America-loving people, and pioneer spirit. And they settled in those mountains. And the stories about this Zed that's in my book is actually a Keith in my family. A Keith married my great-great-grandfather, Solomon Alderman, married Susanna Keith. Well, that Zed Keith in the book is actually after him. He fought the British at Culloden, and they sent him as a slave on the ship Gildart. It really is true, to America. And he escaped to the mountains. And he was sold at Norfolk as an indentured slave, their servant to somebody, and he got away and went to the mountains where all the Scots were down there toward. I think they're all over toward Grandfather Mountain down in there. There's a big Scottish, settlement of people. That's where they went. So anyway, a lot of that is it's true, and I just use it, and some of them I've given another name. But I know I just told some of those stories to Loretta, and she loved those stories about that lion. When the lion tamer went and got the lion, come after Reverend Robinson trying to run him off. He just started preaching about Dan and the lion then. And but Oscar Kirkman in the book Blue Mountains of Dan, that's really my great grandfather. He lived to be 106 years old, and I would go down and spend the night with him. There was a monkey in the tree. My grandmother's sister Maggie, she married Mr. Branch, Brother Branch, we called him. I just called him Mr. Branch. When I was a kid, you didn't call him by the name. And he got that monkey from a carnival somewhere sometime they went through, Mom and him said. And my grandmother hated that thing. She was scared of that monkey, but he had it somehow chained in a tree. And I'd go over to Papa Kirkman's down to Sheltontown. They lived in Sheltontown down there, down that little road. We're in Sheltontown there. And anyway, that monkey, you'd forget about that and be playing, and that thing would come down out of there, scare you to death coming after you. But yeah, my stepdad did sell chickens. He's got trophies in the hallway. You walk into Mom and Dad's house on Depot Street, and it's lined with trophies. I never knew there was chicken shows. I didn't know that until after she'd married him. And a great guy. He's been such a blessing to our family. Buddy Gravely. Buddy Gravely is his name. In fact, I got his incubator. We're Miss Laurie's excited. We are hatching babies for the first time. He gave me his incubator, and they're back here in the incubator now. I'm going to do the light through it here after 7 days and make sure, see if there's a little baby in there. But we got the rooster, and I'll tell you a funny story. I got a good friend, a songwriter from California, and we had a bonfire and a cookout and stuff one night, and this great guy from our church, was there, and such a great little guy. Brother West was his name. And anyway, he was sitting there, and he's a country boy, But this friend of mine was from California, and he don't know nothing. He don't know nothing about raising chickens. And he's from city, he's from L.A. But he's he's not one of them. I ain't saying that. He's a believer in the Lord, and he's a good guy. But he just grew up on the beach there in the city. He was a surfer boy, and a good guy. But he's sitting there with me. They moved to town, here in Nashville, right? We wrote songs together. Anyhow, I told him, I said, he said, what? He said, well, what do you do with the eggs if you don't? He said, if you let them sit too long, there'll be a baby. I said, ain't no rooster. And he didn't get it. He didn't understand. He said, and again, he said, yeah, but what about, I mean, they'll hatch a baby if you don't cook them in time, right? And I said, ain't no rooster. And he didn't get it. And Brother West started laughing until he took his glasses off. He was crying, just laughed till he cried. And I was having fun. I just kept saying, ain't no rooster. And but Pete didn't get it. It was so funny. He just wasn't understanding it. He didn't grow up around chickens and raise them. And it was puzzling him. He said, but there'll be a baby and an egg. And I went, ain't no rooster. And anyway, finally, we let up on him, and so I said, your babies, man, rooster, yeah. And he went, So it was so funny. Mr. West, Brother West, he was over there just laughing till he cried, back behind Pete over there. And I know that night we had a big old owl come in. I had chickens on the walk, and I had a chicken pen for the eggs, but I had a bunch on the walk, and they would get in this evergreen over here next to our house. We lived on Old Hickory Lake, north of here, then from where we're at now. And anyhow, that night, right over the fire, my daughter was sitting there with us, and she said, "What was that, Dad?" And I said, "That's an owl." And it was a big one, big old owl, And went over us, and he went into that tree. He knew where those chickens were. I never had one raid the chickens when they were sitting in a tree at night. And he went after him. Then he landed on the ground. I went around the barn there and come at him. And he wasn't going nowhere for a minute. I got real close to him, and he was not going to leave. But he was a big old great horned owl. Anyhow, that was just a funny story. I kept saying, ain't no rooster. Ain't no rooster, We're looking forward to about 19 days, we should have some babies, and we're going to raise our own, And so we're looking forward to that. In the early morning rain, with an aching in my hand, aching in my heart, and my pockets full of sand. I'm a long way from home, Lord, I miss my loved ones so. In the early morning rain, no place to go. Out on runway number 9, big old 707 set to go. And I'm stuck here in the grass, where the pavement never grows. Tasted good, and the women all fast. Well, there she goes, my friend. She'll be rolling down at last. Hear the mighty engines roll, see the silver wing on high. She's away and westward bound, above the clouds she'll fly. In the early morning rain, with $1 in my hand, with an aching in my heart, my pockets full of sand. I'm a long way from home, Lord, I miss my loved ones so. In the early morning rain, no place to go. Well, this old airport's got me down. It's no earthly good to me, and I'm stuck here on the ground, cold and lonely as can be. You can't junk a big red chain like you can a freight train. So I'd best be on my way in the early morning rain. No, you can't jump a big jet plane like you can an old freight train. So I'd best be on my way in the early morning rain. songwriter up there in Canada. I love Canada. I would go up with friends of mine, and we bear camp, hunt bear, and he had a fish camp. He was an outfitter and owned it, and I went up there about 5 different years, and I'd been up there 4 years, and the 5th year I'd never heard the wolves, and I was like, man, I ain't, I want to hear the wolves, and so I got a moose, a 1,600-pound moose, and we had to clean it in the field there. We was in the middle of nowhere. It was 2 hours by float plane that landed on the lake back to civilization. Ain't no road, over 200 miles, over however miles it was. Nothing but sand trails way back to Fort McMurray. We were way up there, equal with Nome, Alaska, across there in Alberta. And so when we cleaned it, the gut pile, the wolves came in. So I got to hear the wolves. You can see their eyes in the dark over there running, and it'll give you a chill laying in a tent. And the wolves start howling. The leader will start, and then they'll start like harmonies. And but anyway, that was great. And my wife and I, she loved cooking that moose. We had moose meat for a year. But I gave most of the meat to the Feed the Children, Alberta, for the Indian children. First Nation people, they call them. And Miss Beverly says it took a hen and a half a day to hatch. Oh, half a day to hatch. Hatch a hardware store sitting on a doorknob. You go up, he did too. You'd be surprised how many people couldn't figure this out. I'll have to read that in a little bit and think about what you're saying. I know we got a little hen, we call her Little Bit. And we got another one we called Houdinia because she was always getting out of the box when she was little. She could jump out of that box, and she was just escaping from everything we had them in. And she's like, if you open the chicken pen, she's the first one. She'll jump on that door, try to get out. So we call her Houdinia, like after Houdini. But a little bit hurt her leg, and she was one evening I had to pick her up out here and carry her to the chicken pen before dark, put her up, when they go in. So I said, Lord, I just prayed for her. I said, Lord, this is your little creature. I said, please heal this little hen's leg. And you know what? It wasn't a few days. She's fine. She's going with the best of them now. It tickled me a couple of days ago that I let them out on the walk during the day, and we got a pasture fence here, but you can go around the front on the road with this one and get on the other side of it. So the rooster got up by the road, and I went and they'll follow me like puppies back to the pen. And I looked over, and there's a Little Bit. She's on the other side of the fence, coming along at us, looking like, hey, hey, hey. But we got a gate by the garden there on the fence, so I opened it up and got a Little Bit back on our side where she could get in. But Lord, He healed that little hen for us. Like I said, the new single Family Tree was out yesterday. It's on Spotify and all other places. Now I didn't see it this morning yet. Sometimes iTunes and Apple Music are a little bit behind the curve. I guess they've got a lot of songs, so it'll be up soon. Perhaps later today, it'll be on there. You can get it off of Apple Music or iTunes, and it's called Family Tree. Some of the story's true, and it says we were just a dirt poor family living down the back of road. Another case of too many mouths to feed. The tobacco daddy raised finally laid him in his grave. Left mama with Matthew, Mark, James, and me. Now Matthew was the oldest. He had gambling in his blood. All he had all the luck he'd ever need. One night down in Memphis, oh, they shot him with a 44 as he pulled the last ace up his sleeve. Mama tried her best, to raise her boys upright. Spent a lot of late nights down on her knees, asking that the good Lord will make us see the light. One day we'd turn over a brand new leaf, but it seemed like every time a stronger wind would blow. another branch would fall from the family tree. Anyway, that's a little bit of it. That's kind of how it goes. And wrote that with Michael White. Michael wrote The Baby on Blake Shelton, and a great friend of mine. We've written many songs together. But anyway, you can get that one here soon. It'll be up on iTunes. And the new book, I'm working on the 9th book and writing on it. Had some people, lady in Denmark, they won't know when's the next one, when do we find out? Because I left the last book hanging, and you don't know what's happening to somebody. It just was like one of those cliffhangers when we was a kid. Every week you'd watch a chapter, and boom, something be happening. Okay, see you next week. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. He's fallen. What happened to him? But so a friend of mine in England, he said, Larry, you left it on, I guess in Britain they call it the edge of the knife. You know, we would call it a cliffhanger. He said, Larry, you left it on the edge of the knife. Get when's the book coming out to finish it? So we're getting there, and I'm about to go in the studio and lay these songs down and get the new album up on iTunes, an entire album. Got the songs done, and now I got to get recording. Wrote this little song about my hometown. I didn't know a president was going to love this song. I got a letter from him and Barbara Bush, and I just loved this song. I used it as a campaign song. But Miss Debbie Cochran, I used to call her. She was later she was mayor of Mount Airy, but back then she was DJ at WSYD, where I worked a little. That's probably the worst DJ they ever had. I did it in the summertime. In high school, I went up there and called myself the Drifter. So if you ever heard the Drifter at night, that was me for a little bit. It was just that summer. But I wanted to play what I wanted to play, and one night Mike Poor called me. He said, son, he said, you got to play the playlist. And I was like, oh, this ain't no fun. But anyway, they were great. Mr. Rastus Poor, he believed in me. He let Paul Johnson use the studio to put my songs down, and he encouraged me. He was the station owner at WSYD. And I'd go over and Saturday morning play on the merry-go-round. There were great people over there. They were all good to me. I wrote this little song with Patty Ryan. She wrote Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. And Rich Fagan, he wrote Could You Really Want to Be My Baby Tonight? It's two other songs. Should call me that day, what, Rich? But anyway, we wrote this. I've traveled all around this country. In my time, thought I'd seen it all. But today I took a detour down the back road, through a little town whose name I can't recall. There were old men on benches playing checkers, children playing hopscotch on the square, and high above the statue of an unknown soldier, old glory was waving in the air. Suddenly I realized what I'd too long forgotten. A chill rose up like mountains on my skin. Overcome with the feeling, I knew I was seeing America all over again. Americana, pictures of a people proud and free. Americana, I'll keep living to the dream. You're still what living means to me. Thanks to folks down at Walker's soda fountain. I got me a Coke float when I was home. First one in 30 years. But they put my picture in there, and I was like, well, I hope that don't run off business. But I told them, you're the little counter that's in Americana. So, well, I knew to stop and throw me off my schedule. the summer was like a Norman Rockwell picture back in time. Kids were courting and to walk or so to mountain, like we did before they built that shopping mall. I saw so many reasons why I love this country. You know, some things never really change at all. As I left the two-lane road, pulled back on that superhighway, I thought of what I'd seen back in that town, and it hit me like a freight train at a stone's throw from the fast lane. America is still safe and sound. Americana, pictures of a people proud and free. Americana, I'll keep holding to the dream. You're still what living means to me. We wrote it for Kenny Rogers. We're hoping to get it on Kenny, and day we got there to his producer, they had finished the album. So I took off over to see Jerry Kennedy over at EMI Records, and he was producing the Statler Brothers. And I went in there and gave it to him. And he didn't play the song right then. He played it a little bit after I left. We'd always visit. We were big Dale Earnhardt fans. We loved racing, so we sat there and talked about racing, and then he would listen to what I left him. Well, he called me back and he said, "Oh Lord," he said, "I'm cutting this, and I got the Statlers will be in off the road, Monday." Well, Thursday or Friday, after I gave it to him, Mo Bandy came down the hall. He was recording. He was producing Mo Bandy also, and Jerry was playing my song. I guess he was thinking how he's going to produce it on the Statlers. Well, Mo heard it and went, "I gotta have it. That's mine. And went right in and stole it from him. No, I just kidding. I was writing with Jimmy Fortune, and I was kidding, and he said, Mo was glad to get that song, But anyhow, that's how he got it. He begged him. He said, "I gotta have it. It's mine. He said, "I've always wanted to do a song like that," and so it was great. And Mo Bandy's a great guy, I tell you. I love Mo Bandy. My favorite Mo Bandy song is Hank Williams' "You Wrote My Life." That's my favorite song. The other day Steve was telling me on the phone, he said that my book reminded me of that song. I was like, well, that's my favorite Mo Bandy song. Even over Americana, I love Hank Williams' "You Wrote My Life." But anyhow, Mo got it, and that rest was history. He went to Branson and opened the Americana Theater. It was 10 years run there that he played in there all the time and did Americana. I was writing with a little girl, Shelly was her name, in Nashville one day, and she said, "My daddy used to take me to the Americana Theater when I was a little girl and heard your song." And I was like, don't make me feel old now, you little brat, sit here telling me how when you was a little girl. But anyhow, Miss Beverly said she didn't realize Americana was based. Yep, when I started, I was cutting with my Barlow knife. I cut apple there while we was all writing, and I was telling her where we was from, talking to the writer that I wrote it with. I said, tell them about Mount Airy. And when I was a kid, the men used to sit there on Main Street and play checkers on a little bench they had back there, and they sold newspapers on a table. Had a table with the Mount Airy News on it, and people would come by and say, "I'm going to be picking it up, getting paper, whatever." And I put that in the song, and the flag over there waving, and my sisters played hopscotch. I threw that in, and it's just the imagery of growing up in Mount Airy. And I told Debbie Cochran that a long time ago, and she told people on the radio that they didn't know that. Mo loved it when he found out it was about Mayberry, and where I was from. And so Jimmy Fortune loves that song. He sings harmony on it with me when we get together and pick, you know. And oh, his harmony is just whoosh. His singing is just so awesome. And but yeah, I'm glad I got to visit with James the last year when I was in, year before, Easter before, I guess it was. And I'm glad I caught him at the store. Sometimes I'd be home and I'd go by and nobody was there, or he wasn't there. But I caught him, and I'm so glad we got to visit. And he was telling me about that little video where this broody looking teenager was playing guitar for him with him. And he said, I kept thinking, who was that? That me, you know. He of course he knew then, he remembered later. But I had so much fun, you know, playing with them. I was real proud to be. I was honored that they would ask me as a kid to play guitar for them. And of course, we had a little group that played before them each time, and that was Linda Easter and Russell Jr. and Jerry Booker. He worked in Snappy Lunch when he was in high school part-time. But Jerry was the drummer, and we had the little kid group, and then I'd get up and play with the men when the Easter Brothers, you know, my guitar. And we went around. I got on the bus, and we'd go to little holiness churches and places everywhere, and Baptist, everything, and play. But it got to be funny because, you know, I wasn't exactly, you know, I was a teenager, and I wasn't exactly honed in on the Lord, you know. I mean, I believed, I've been saved. But I got to feeling funny because we'd go in little holiness churches and everybody look around and everybody testifying and they look at me. And I'd be standing there like, well, I'm so glad to be here tonight. Y'all pray for me. And so after a bit, I thought, you know, I started feeling like, you know, I really ought to get real serious, you know, about if I'm going to play with somebody like the Easter Brothers. But I did it for a little bit, and it was a great experience, and I appreciate them so much. And but they were always supportive of me, and they always believed in my guitar playing and my talent. And you don't forget that, you know. And I went in their store one day when I was before I left in the Army, and they had this little dobro guitar like thing, this little you know, the resonator guitar, and it had Dixie on top of it. And that's a guitar I drug off to Nashville with me. And but anyhow, I got that. And then one day I got I had the banjo. It was homemade. They had this banjo somebody gave them or traded or something. They got it, and it was a big old lug nut on the back. And it was just a homemade banjo, and I got it from, I think they got almost for nothing. They sold it to me. But I always admired that family, you know, and always admired what they did, and was so proud to just be in a little way associated with them, you know. But well, folks, I got to wrap her up. I've got to get busy with some copyright stuff, and I got to get back on the book and get rolling. And then I got to set time up here in the studio to get these songs recorded for the album. So working on it. I need to polish one of them. I got to work on that today. But anyway, appreciate y'all so much, and love visiting with you, and thank you, my friends in England. Say howdy to y'all, and hope y'all are well today. And I love those folks. There's so many good friends in England, and we're working on getting that tour reset. I was supposed to have been over there, and COVID hit, and I had all these shows to come do and meet these folks. And a lot of them love my books. They're buying the books. They love my albums. They got my albums and my songs. And over in the UK, and I'm looking forward. I got friends in Keighley, England, Manchester, England, you know, Liverpool, and places. And towns I can't remember, but Miss Jan Brookfield, she's over there, a great friend, and just one of these days, I'm looking forward to it. Get hooked up and get over there and meet them, and so we're working on that. So y'all know that, and Miss Andre Christian Krohn in Denmark, good morning to you and y'all, and thank you so much. We appreciate all y'all, and may the good Lord take a liking to you. Y'all come back here. We'll see y'all next week, good Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise. It's CoWBoY CoFFee time. CoWBoy CoFFee time. CoWBoy CoFFee time. Y'all come back to here. Y'all come back now.